Good morning. My name is Lauren Farmer, and I'm here with my husband, Michael Farmer. So that's why we're not wearing masks. We are with two nonprofit organizations in Charleston, West Virginia. So I'm with the Bob Burdette Center, and we provide after-school programming to 4 elementary schools and 1 middle and high school in our area. Right now, as many of you probably are, trying to figure out what that looks like during COVID. But we are here today to present to you the presentation Connections Matter. We were trained in this last year, and it really talks about the developing brain and how important relationships are in helping kids to develop properly, and also to help mitigate any adverse childhood experiences they might have experienced, and any trauma that they might have experienced. So that's me. Michael is currently trying to get a third. Sorry about that. We were trying to get it brought up on another computer so we can monitor the chat box. So we turned that off. Hopefully that's better. But Michael, do you want to introduce yourself?
There it is. Good morning. Hi, everybody. There we go. Awesome. So sorry about that. I was trying to get that. We're going to have another computer set up so we can monitor the chat box on there with you guys. Like Lauren had mentioned, we're husband and wife, so we're socially distanced. So if one of us got the Rona, we all got the Rona. So we're just going ahead and just roll the dice right now at this point and stuff. But as she mentioned, I'm Michael Farmer. I work with Step by Step. I'm the operations director. We have 15 after-school programs in 3 different counties in West Virginia. We have a very diverse kind of group of after-school programs. Two of our counties are primarily rural, and then we have one that's actually in the city of Charleston, which has 6 locations, which are urban. So we've got a very diverse group of kids that we work with on a week-to-week and a day-to-day basis. But like we're going to be talking about today, the biggest thing for us is that the connections matter all across the board for all of our students, for all the situations and the trauma and things that they deal with. So we're thankful to be on this with you guys, and we will be getting everything connected and started here. So we're going to take a moment and go ahead and share the screen, but we wanted to go ahead and give you guys a moment. If you guys can hop in the chat box and let us know what city and state you guys are from, and what role do you play in your after school organization, and give us like a fun hobby, something that you've been doing during COVID to keep your sanity. I like to hear what people have been doing. Like I see that people are binge watching television shows. I've been working on my car. I'm reading books, like slam dunking on little kids. So if you guys would take a moment in the chat box and let us know what you guys have been doing during COVID as a hobby, and then also let us know your role in your after school program area, and also what city and state that you're in.
I've got to admit that my hobby during COVID has pretty much been survival. We had a newborn in January, and we just also added another child to our household not too soon before that. So it's been a lot of change in a short amount of time. So survival is key. So we've got some people who are crocheting. Marcy Joe from Wheeling, West Virginia. She likes to crochet.
You're close. You can send us something. The address is 1410 4th Avenue. Yes.
I love it. let's see, we've got somebody from Karen Lee from Bardstown, Kentucky. She's cataloging, oh, wait a minute, I lost it, and writing down her favorite recipes for her kids. That's awesome. Um, we've got Wade from Henderson, Kentucky. He's a co-director of a 21st Century program, and he's putting together things for a new house that they just got finished building. Now that sounds like a big a big hobby. I don't know if that's a hobby. That sounds like a lot.
That sounds like torture. I'm sorry.
But we're all so glad that you're here with us, and we hope that you are able to take something away from this presentation that you can apply in your program. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I've got a, okay, here we go. So how many of us know someone who's having a tough time right now, or can think of some problems in your community that you are worried about? We recognize that we're all going through something in some way, shape, or form right now, especially with COVID-19 and the challenges that individuals are facing. So if you guys could drop something in the chat box that you are having challenges with right now, or if you know somebody that's having a time, do you know somebody that's having a tough time, and or maybe what's a problem that's in your community. And Michael was going to share a little bit about some challenges that we're facing in our community right now. Are you ready to do that, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm going to switch my position.
Okay. We're going to do a switcheroo.
All right. Let me make it here. So Lauren's going to be managing the chat box on there. So talking about some of the challenges that we've been facing, and many of us, like we mentioned, we go through tough times. So we work here in Charleston, West Virginia. I also serve as a pastor in the area. So in the midst of COVID, we've transformed our church into an after-school center, which has become a family resource center for our community. But in the midst of, having a newborn baby, adopting in a 11-year-old child, COVID in itself, we're also facing a ton of just pervasive violence in the area. I think within the last 5 days, we've had about 4 shootings in which there's been victims. And these are real life threats that are in your community. And in the midst of it all, we don't have after school programmings like we normally would to where our kids would be safe. Just personally, I got a call at 10:30. I think it was last Friday in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, that there had been a shooting a block away from where my daughter was going to be picking up her lunches and such. So I called Lauren. She's frantically running out the door. She's making sure KK, our 11-year-old, is good to go. I fly from downtown to our neighborhood. It's only about a 7-minute drive away, and I still see kids at the bus stop where the shooting had just happened. So we know that there's a lot of things in our neighborhoods and problem areas and stuff like that. I see in the chat box, balancing a non-traditional instruction for your kindergarten and second grader at home. God bless you, because KK's in 6th grade. She can self-manage herself, but a kindergarten and a second grader while you're trying to work, that's a lot, especially as you're in Louisville and the concerns about the conflictions and stuff in the area. Amber also mentioned violence in Indianapolis is very high. So I'm thankful for people sharing about this. And we face a lot of issues within our areas. And the question that we have is, do you ever wonder what you could do to help in that moment, in that time, in that situation? We're in after school, so we're already in it. We're boots on the ground. We're working in our communities. And a lot of people, they ask these questions: what can we do to help develop some of these, help develop some ways that we can help out our community in the midst of the chaos and things that are going on around us and in our lives and such like that. So what we want to do is we want to talk about how we all have been afflicted by the lack of connections during COVID. If you guys want to take a moment in the chat box, that'll be the next thing that we're going to be talking about here as we go to slide 4. Or what are some of the things that we've been affected? How have you guys been affected by COVID and such? By the lack of connections that we've not been able to make. So our next question is, ever wonder what you could do? The science is telling us that telling us that the little things we do to connect make a big difference. So it starts with understanding the developing brain and continuing with seeing how relationships build healthy brains and thriving communities. The bottom line is that connections, they matter. This presentation will show you how and why the little things that we do to connect with one another build relationships that are important for everybody within our communities and the areas around us.
So let's see. Right now, we still just have some concerns from people with lack of connection with family, people, coworkers, and trying to find resources for those people in need. So those are still some of our challenges. But let's see. You're wondering, what can we do to help? So relationships are one of those things. Can you go to the next slide, Michael? Okay. So our brain and our relationships and our community are all interconnected, and this can lead to strengths and some good outcomes when we take positive steps to build relationships, or it can also result in weaknesses when we miss opportunities to make those connections that build healthy brains, relationships, and communities. When we think about caring connections, they promote healthy brains that are ready to think and learn. They also supportive relationships help people cope and to thrive. And then strong communities where everyone succeeds. Those are some caring connections, things that caring connections promote. So we do that in after school. I think that's one of the strengths of after school. It's helping to build those relationships with kids. We have a little bit more opportunity to do that in the after school setting. It's a little bit harder during the school day when you have all of these boxes you need to check, all the curriculum you need to get through. After school, we really have that chance to connect with our kids in a new and different way and get a little bit closer with them, especially those kids who, might face more challenges and might have a lack of connections. So the next slide is a little video that talks about the developing brain. And so it's right here, it's already up. And so, Michael's the tech person. He's gonna get it up. Okay, so we're going to show this and hopefully it translates well over Zoom.
A child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the
So they
process
can't see the
that
video.
determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak
I can share
foundation.
the screen. Give us 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and share this screen on the Zoom. Here we go. Here we go. We're going to press the play on that.
Oh yeah, so we can tell.
A child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. During this important period of brain development, billions of brain cells called neurons send electrical signals to communicate with each other. These connections form circuits that become the basic foundation of brain architecture. Circuits and connections proliferate at a rapid pace and are reinforced through repeated use. Our experiences and environment dictate which circuits and connections get more use. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent. Meanwhile, connections that are used less fade away through a normal process called pruning. Well-used circuits create lightning-fast pathways for neural signals to travel across regions of the brain. Simple circuits form first, providing a foundation for more complex circuits to build on later. Through this process, neurons form strong circuits and connections for emotions, motor skills, behavioral control, logic, language, and memory during the early critical period of development. With repeated use, these circuits become more efficient and connect to other areas of the brain more rapidly. While they originate in specific areas of the brain, the circuits are interconnected. You can't have one type of skill without the others to support it. Like building a house, everything is connected, and what comes first forms a foundation for all that comes later.
All right. We get to the next slide on here. All righty. I'm gonna pull up the PowerPoint again. Sorry, we got like the multiple screens popping up. There we go. Let me pull it up just to make sure. There we go. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we have technical difficulties there. There we go. All right, just to make sure everyone can see the screen on there. So we are on, in that developing brain video that we had there. It really speaks about the connections that we make and how they're made at an earlier age in life, and talking about so I'm trying to pull up, having these two different screens and stuff like that makes it a little bit difficult sometimes, but on the speaker notes, and then we're talking about the brain elasticity. It's kind of like considering using like the play foam that your kids have. And when you use that play foam, when you have it in your hand, as we love to have some play foam with you guys, we couldn't send it out to you guys. But whenever you engage in a sense such as touch and things like that, it kind of gives us the visual of like when you're using that to kind of build and to mold the brain into place. And how it's malleable, kind of like how you all would use Play-Doh. So working with kids and families and such like that, we know that when they're in our after-school program settings, when they're in our schools, our kids are very malleable, and that's how their brains are when we're interacting with them in an after-school setting and such like that. So kind of like with the brain, they're shaped by our experiences throughout our lifetime, both positive things and both negative things. So the younger brain, the greater the plasticity or capacity to change, the younger brain that has the greater plasticity and the capacity to change. But the good news is that we now know that the adult brain also retains much of the plasticity of the developing brain, including the ability to repair damaged regions of the brain. So throughout our lifetime, our brains, they can reactivate the connections that have been inactive and create new connections, just like an electrician working and getting electrical circuits together for a house, as my friend is doing with the house he's building right now. Sorry, our PowerPoint on the shared screen is giving me a little bit of issues here. There we go. Had a little bit of lag on there.
Okay. So we know that an infant's brain doubles in size during their first year of life, and that it's approximately 80% of the adult brain by the time they're 3. So like we said, we have a newborn and she's learned so much in just the past 8 months. And it's amazing to see how much a child's brain can grow and change. So whenever we learn something new, we can make new brain connections, and everyone's brain learns best from social interaction. And that's how we start to build trust. And trust is built through, eye contact, appropriate touch, or, in these times like air, high fives or whatever. And being and time with people. So people who are vulnerable with one another build deeper trust, and that's why connections matter. So relationships, like we said, it's what we do. It's something that we're really good at in after school. So I think in the chat box, if we could have folks just maybe share something that they do in their after school programs to help build relationships with the kids, so that they're building trust with them and helping kids, make new connections in their brain. So just one thing that you do to build relationships after school. Michael, do you want to share something that we do?
So I know we all do like a social emotional activities and trainings and things like that. One aspect of our after school programs is that we have a supplemental program, and we use AmeriCorps National Service members to actually provide one-on-one mentorship in the actual schools that our kids go to, and then we connect the AmeriCorps mentors into an after-school setting. So they have the opportunity for them to see a mentor in school and then after school. So it really builds the connection between I have a sober-minded adult in school and a sober-minded adult in after school. And then just basic, just fun activities. I like doing a lot of sports activities with my kids because I believe that playing with your kid builds and develops a trust, and also gives them an opportunity. If you're like me, I'm pretty in shape, but I feel like I'm not the best in shape. But you get a little vulnerable sometimes when you're around your kids and they're beating you in basketball and things like that.
Okay, so we did have a few folks share. So TJ I'm not sure where he's from, but he says that he has a sound off session with the kids so they can vent to him. That's and good. It's a safe place for them to say whatever they want. Karen Lee says that they build time and opportunities for students to play together through choice activities built around social interaction. So I've got 2 folks on here that are in the after school program that I work with, and one says that they ask each student individually and sometimes as a group what their favorite part of the day was. Oh, sorry, TJ. TJ is a she, not a he, and she is from Green Dot Public Schools. And then we also do something at the Bob Burdett Center called Laugh Lab. We partner with a organization, and they use comedy to help kids talk about tough situations like bullying. So those are some things that we do to help build relationships with the kids and help them to become a little bit more vulnerable. Natalie says she also asks one thing that they would change about their day in addition to what the best part of the day was. So those are some ways that people in after school programs are working to build relationships with the kids that they work with, which are so important as we're trying to help kids who might have experienced some trauma or some adverse experiences to build brain connections and build that trust.
So on our next slide here, it gives a very good visual as to it gives a very good visual here when it introduces the concept of the upstairs and the downstairs brain. As a way to talk about how the brain works, the downstairs brain is more of the primitive area of the brain, which focuses on survival. This is the part of the brain that regulates breathing, your heart rate, other basic functions. The downstairs brain also houses your emotional core of your brain, and our survival reaction to stress, which is the flight, the fight, or the freeze, or the responses that we have in those moments of stress and time, stuff like that. So the upstairs brain area, the upstairs of the brain is where all the higher functions happen. So this is where we talk about your decision making, setting priorities, understanding the difference between right and wrong, building relationships, and more. The upstairs brain, the upstairs brain, which is not mature until around 25 years or so, helps us to regulate more impulse, reactive, downstairs brain, so that we can think versus just reacting by our emotions. And we know in our after school programs, a lot of the kids, they're fight or flight based off of the trauma that they've dealt with at home and such like that. So we have a great opportunity for them in our after school programs to kind of build those higher functions in the upstairs brain. So as the brain is developing, we have a great opportunity, like we mentioned in our after school programs, to build in social interactions and connections and activities that can help them to develop the upstairs brain in our after school programs. So it just kind of asks the questions, how do we deal with stress? What are some situations that we have had in our lives where we've had to deal with stress in our lives? And think about maybe a situation that you've had to deal with stress, and when did you maybe use your downstairs brain, or when did you have to use your upstairs brain? If anybody has anything that they want to throw in the chat box for that, that would be awesome. So thinking about this morning, we're getting ready. I'm trying to think. The baby woke up a couple of times last night. We've got to get our 11-year-old ready for e-learning. Lauren wakes up. The baby's in the bed. It's maybe like 7:45. We planned on being at our location by 8 o'clock to get set up and ready. So I'm stressing. I'm getting up. Lauren's taking a shower. We're getting the baby ready. KK's getting stuff going. She's kind of slow moving in the morning. We're trying to get the dogs outside, and I'm dealing with my stress in that moment. And in that moment, I'm trying to get KK ready. I stop. And I'm frustrated. I'm like, can you look the dogs outside? She's looking at me like, dang, what's wrong with you? Like, just very real interactions and moments. And I'm realizing, I said, I'm stressing. I'm stressed out in this moment. I need to pull back. And in that moment, what I did was I said, I need to make a connection with my daughter real quick, because I'm going to stress her out. And I'm going to make her frustrated. And I'm going to make her have a fight response as opposed to
she's
using
not
an
a
upstairs.
flight.
No,
Freeze. She is a fight.
KK is a fight. I'm gonna verbally get you and then look at you and be like, but no. I'm worried if she gets out here in these streets one day, it's not gonna be I'm gonna flight or be reasonable. It's gonna be a fight response. So in that moment, I had to think about, how am I making a connection? I said, to my child, I'm like, how is that the first connection you want to make in the morning? Is to have a stressed out parent who's instead of being able to conversate about what's going on, let's kind of pull back real quick and let's say, let me give you a hug real quick. And I started off and I said, first off, let me give you a hug. And we hugged for probably about 2 minutes. We talked about what was going on. And that was a moment where I had to think about it. I said, man, I kind of went to my primitive response in my downstairs when I was dealing with my stress. And it was funny because she looks at she's talking to me, she pulls me to the side, she goes, Dad. I'm like, yeah. She goes, Mom's a little stressed this morning. I'm like, okay, yeah. She goes, you should get her something to eat.
She knows.
So, and that's that's the thought, is what is our response and how do we deal with stress, in the midst of our day and things are going on. So how do you guys deal with the stress, and how are you guys dealing with, school life and everything else that's going on when you all have to regulate all this stuff? If y'all want to throw some stuff into the chat box.
Yeah, we've got somebody else who's shared some of their stressors. Kelsey has taken in 2 kids literally a week or so, maybe not even that long after getting married. And she has a 9-month-old and I think a 6 or 7-year-old. And so she's trying to get school done with them, trying to get medicines to them before the last dose wears off. Kelsey, do you have any thing that you do to help manage your stress? If you do, just unmute yourself or you throw it in the chat box. Anybody have any good tips for dealing with stress?
Sometimes I have to go take a cool down. And then, I come back, and normally when it's a cool down session, me and the 7-year-old have been fighting, arguing, and we have to cool down, we have to apologize, and then we go from there. Sometimes it's right back into a cool down, and sometimes it's not, but
yeah. That's, yeah.
It's a time.
I know it can be challenging. I mean, trying to step back, like you said, and like Michael said, and just thinking about, why am I having these reactions, and just trying to reset. And something that we do in after school, we have a calm down corner. One of my staff members has really done a good job about developing that area where kids can go, when they're, on a level 10, and try to bring it back down. They have I spy bottles, try to focus on something. Other staff have really worked with our kids on breathing techniques, and just using breathing to try to, get control of the basic functions. Like it said, our downstairs brain houses those basic functions, including breathing. So if you can try to work on getting your breathing under control, often after that you have a better ability to respond to stress. After you get some of your bodily functions under control, you're calmed down physically, then you can think more and use your upper brain.
Yeah. I think some of the things in the chat box, prayer, go ahead. Yes, Lord, help us out today. If we have time, we'll show you all the funny video. Our 11-year-old did a news interview about going back to school, and it's just comical. So if we have time at the end, maybe we'll share that with you guys. But I see on there, I love the comment is saying, trying to make sure to maintain healthy boundaries with time so that you can get outside and enjoy the day. That's one aspect that in the midst of COVID, it's been nice to get out and take some walks.
Yeah, the other day I was
Exercise.
like, Michael, can we just take a walk at lunch?
Yeah, just getting out like that. So it makes a huge difference, getting outside and, helping to regulate these things. So that's definitely one of those things. I think TJ made a really good, I think she's mentioning something, but we have a broad range of students that we deal with in age range. So in some of our after school programs, we have pre-K to kindergarten to high school kids. Our AmeriCorps program, we really focus on getting kids who are middle school and high school mentors, and then elementary school. But even some of our staff members, let's be honest, we deal with a lot of the trauma and the stress that our staff members are dealing with. And we as employees, as we get entry-level staff people, we have to take time and invest in them to help make sure that they're helping to regulate their responses in the workplace. We don't want our staff members to go there to the downstairs brain when stuff gets stressful. When you're in the gym and the kids are throwing balls all over the place and you're panicking and, there may have been a shooting or a drive-by in your neighborhood, we've got to have them to be able to regulate their upstairs brain and thinking also. And I think they can model that in the workplace. So I think that's just another aspect of thinking about right now is the broad arrangement of people that we work with and how we work with people.
Yeah, I think for the older kids, having those one-on-one conversations are better in helping regulate the emotions. Obviously, you're not going to send them to a calm down corner.
Mm-hmm.
You might do something with similar strategies, but it's going to be more on their level.
Yeah.
TJ, do you work with older kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, she says she works with high schoolers, so it is a different ball game when you're working with those older kids compared to the younger ones. And it's definitely more talking,
Mm-hmm.
trying to like get the kid to get to a place where they can share with you maybe some of the things that are going on. With high schoolers, you're not really going to use a calm down corner, but like Michael said, we utilize our AmeriCorps a lot for our older kids, and that's specifically what they're charged with, is just building those mentoring relationships where they're helping kids work through some of their challenges.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So as we think about how we respond to stress and what kind of methods we use to move from our downstairs brain to our upstairs brain, we know that our body's natural response to stress is to release cortisol, and that is a distress hormone that can cause our body to have automatic primitive behaviors like those fight, flight, or freeze. But the body also releases a relaxation hormone called serotonin. And serotonin is the rest and digest chemical that gets us back into our upstairs brain. It helps us with preventing anxieties and depression, and it is circulated through the body through deep breathing, like the kind we do when we exercise or we meditate. So somebody did mention that they use deep breathing to help calm down, and that does help release serotonin. So that's a great technique that we use. And we can use that with kids from all ages. I know personally as an adult, sometimes I just have to sit at my desk and just do some deep breathing to help to regain control of, my upstairs brain so that I don't have those primitive reactions to situations that might come up. And one thing I did learn whenever we were doing this training is that physically eating something helps us to release serotonin as well. So that, like it says, the rest and digest. So something else that can help kids who might having a stress response would just give them something a little bit to eat. That can help them to release more serotonin and help to get them back under control. So deep breathing, maybe a little snack.
The kids are always just hangry.
Yeah,
That's the
I'm
problem.
hangry a lot, so
Mhm.
I understand. I
They're-
really understand.
They're like Betty White in those Snickers commercials.
Um,
She needs something to eat. I'm hoping
Yeah.
somebody caught that reference. If not, if you caught that reference, give me a thumbs up in the chat box. So,
but just trying to find different things to work with our kids to help them to get back into their upstairs brain. Okay. So let's see. I'm trying to look to see where we are.
Missy got the joke. Yeah,
Okay.
TJ, yes.
Betty White over here.
It's the little things over here. It's the little things that you can we're making connections right now.
Yeah.
I like the Betty White Snickers commercial when she's on the football field. It's like, you're just not yourself right now. Those are
So
hilarious.
true. So true. KK knew this morning. I just needed a little something
Right.
to eat.
Surprised she didn't put something in your bag. You
I
may want
know.
to check it later
I
on.
know.
Yeah. So our next slide, it talks about how our brains have the capacity to make trillions of connections, as you can kind of see visually here. Our brains have the capacity to make trillions of connections, like the branches of a thick evergreen tree. A healthy brain has a lot of branches that are connected, that are connecting and communicating with each other. The image that you see, it helps us understand what can happen in developing brains where there is much stress and too few relationships. You can kind of see our Charlie Brown tree,
Yeah.
and you see our healthy tree over here. But our brains, they're very sensitive to stress. High levels of stress and prolonged stress can reduce the number of brain connections being made, especially in the absence of supportive relationships which help us cope with stress. So we see in infants and children's brains are particularly sensitive to stress because their brains are making a lot of new connections. So in the midst of COVID, that's one of the biggest concerns that we have is how do we continue to have a connection with our friends and our families and things like that. And even as adults, these are, situations where we're working with our kids and we've got to continue those healthy connections in life. But it's also the stressor of knowing that our kids may be at home in unhealthy environments. So it's made me appreciate more what we do in an after school setting to provide them with the opportunity to connect with friends and families and those people around us.
So now we're planning on doing a breakout session where you guys can talk a little bit about what you guys do to build those connections. And I'm going to put some things in the chat box. So the tree equals the community, however you choose to define it. Can you read the other ones while I type it in the chat box, Michael?
Mm-hmm. The tree equals the community, however you choose to define it. The branches equal the needs of the people within the community. And then we're ready for the next one. Probably copy this in there.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
And lastly, the leaves are the people, groups, organizations, formal and informal, that meet those needs.
So so we're gonna try to do a breakout, 4 to 6 people, I think it is. If you guys could just talk about in your communities or in your setting, define that, and then list what the branches are, what the needs of the people in the community are, and then also what the leaves are, the people, groups, and organizations, whether formal or informal, that help meet those needs. So
We'll make it about 3. We're running low on time, so we'll make it about, we could
Just a
probably make it
couple
about 3 minutes there if that's good. If they want to go ahead and do the breakouts there, Mr. IT person. Thank you, sir.
let's see there. Oh. Are we unmuted on your, yeah.
Yeah. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Just want to make sure. I turned my volume down on here. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you, Marcy. You crocheting us something nice. I love watching the progress.
blue is my favorite
right.
color.
You're like me. I've got to do something while I'm watching, and I'm like, it makes me more focused. Awesome. Well, we've got 2 more slides before we kind of finish up our session. I know it's supposed to end at 9:50. We're going to try to
So this
breeze
is a
through it.
2-part session. I'm not sure if they're gonna, I think we're gonna jump off this one and jump on another one. I'm not 100% tech help. Okay, 1 more minute from the tech guys. So let's
Wow.
get this going.
Yeah. So kind of just finishing up, we've got 2 last slides we'll try to get through here. I don't know if it'll kick us out or not. But it just kind of, it talks about, what is trauma? What is experienced as trauma is personal. That's one thing that we have to remember, that any child, as they're dealing with trauma, it could be the bigger things, is that, maybe there's drug abuse in a household. Maybe there was something, a death as a family member, someone going away to prison. But we also know that there are diverse just arrays of what trauma can look like.
And what is traumatic for one person might not necessarily be traumatic for another.
Yes. So our experiences, they're influenced by the things that have happened to us in our past and current situations of our life and the support systems that we have. So supportive relationships and a thriving community can reduce the impact and even prevent a threatening circumstance from being experienced as trauma. As we are learning more each day about the potential long-term effects of trauma, when we don't have supportive relationships and a strong community to protect us, research has shown that trauma can be passed down to the next generation unintentionally. The important thing to remember is that all of this can be prevented. We know more than ever about how to help people in our communities who are experiencing and stressing with trauma. I'm going to leave you guys the resources because we don't have time to bring it up, but in the chat box, I'm going to put in here a resource that's just a developing child trauma study that they have. If my Zoom will allow us to, we'll also go to the next slide, but I'll put that in there while Lauren is reading the next slide.
Okay. So for more information about the connection between childhood trauma and the effects of health across the lifespan, you can also go to a website from the CDC. It's www.cdc.gov/violence-prevention/a-study/about.html. And Michael can probably put that in the chat box as well. So there's a study you can download. I'm sure many of you have probably heard about the ACEs study, but there's more information about that on that website. So
we'll drop those in there.
He's going to drop those in there. This is the end of this session of the presentation. So this is a 2-part. So we'll hop off this one, have a couple-minute break, and then we'll hop on the other one. So we hope that you rejoin us for the second part of this session that starts at 10 o'clock. If you need those resources, I think that Michael's getting those in there, and we look forward to seeing you in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll do that. And if you guys want to stay on while we got a couple minutes, I'm gonna put a funny video up here. It's a video of our daughter Kanaya, and she was talking about the stress of having to do virtual school, and it's just
this was the first day.
Yeah, so she had to do a huge assessment on the first day. I'm gonna screen share this with you guys. It's pretty hilarious on how she dealt with the stress and such like that. So give me 1 second. Let me switch my screen share on here, that you all can see the right screen, and we'll go ahead and play this for you guys. This is her big debut and her first news interview that she's ever done, and it's definitely a good one. If you can't do chat while you're also here. I don't know if it's frozen up there. Hold on a second. Where's your chat box saying? Oh, there we go. I'll restart it here.
Brand new challenges for parents.
What is the remainder?
A place normally
A summer break that went on for, well, more than 5 months when you think about it. Children in West Virginia finally felt good to be back in school today. Some students were sent off to class on a school bus, while others were just sitting at the kitchen table.
79 days since they canceled school in West Virginia. As News Channel 3's Shaylee Stel-Flesh reports, the first day of school came with some brand new challenges for parents.
What is the remainder?
A place normally reserved for homework and dinner now sets the stage for a day of learning. Children from orange counties like Kanawha, Putnam, and Mingo had to start the school year virtually. Students say the adjustment hasn't been easy.
I can't believe I got to do it. I'm tired. I gotta wake up extra early for this.
This year, Kanawha is starting the 6th grade, a transition that's hard enough on its own. After about 45 minutes of online work, Kanawha took a much-needed break because for her, the questions were getting tough. How do you get through that? What helps you?
Jesus.
Kanawha isn't the only one having a hard time. Her parents are working out the kinks as well, trying to juggle work, virtual learning, and a baby.
Oh my
So we have
goodness.
after school programs, and it's kind of daunting trying to work and then also have the schooling at the same time.
But for other families, the struggle of virtual learning goes past trying to find a balance. Some children still don't have the materials they need.
My oldest daughter has her tablet for high school, but for middle school, my elementary, we had to turn their tablets in.
Aquila says she is trying to get tablets for her daughters. In the meantime, she's working with what she has.
I have one laptop, so now I'm logged on Schoology. I have to log one out, log the other one on, do work.
While the first day was a challenge for both parents and students, they agree that state leaders made the right call. In the meantime, they will keep working with teachers until they get it right. Shaylee Stel-Flesh,
That pop.
WSCT News Channel 3, Charleston. Jesus is getting her through.
That pop.
The first day of virtual learning, of course, a challenge. The hope is it's not going to
Oh, my
last forever.
goodness.
Counties in the orange will know more of what the future holds, of course, Saturday night at 9 o'clock when the color.
All righty. Well, we hope that you all enjoyed that first session. Hopefully that video gave you all a little bit of a pick-me-up. So that's like 1% of what her personality is like. Just imagine what it's
Yeah,
like at
it's just
home and stuff like that. But so it shows on how you deal with the stress and stuff like that. But we're gonna go ahead and get ready for the next session. So we'll be here for session 2, and we'll see you guys if you join us. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Is there a survey they're supposed to do?
It's at the end of the next session.
Okay, perfect. So thank you guys.